Okay, team, very excited for this session. So we have got the one and only Martina Rogers in the hot seat tonight. She's done absolutely incredible work with us on Elevate. She's been a joy to work with, I have to say. So I am super pumped for this. I'm not going to go too deep into her story. She's going to tell you a little bit about that herself. I want you guys to take as much as you can from it. I know you're going to get loads of inspiration. You're probably going to get loads of advice as well, because she's figured out a lot of stuff. And I even see her dropping knowledge bombs in the group and helping people out, which is absolutely incredible. So take away whatever you can. You're absolutely learning from somebody who's been through the whole process here and has just done amazing stuff. So yeah, I'm going to bring her straight on in, because I know she's probably sitting here nervously and probably just wants to get started. Martina, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm not too bad, thanks, Alan.
Good.
A bit nervous, but yeah, all right.
You'll be okay. You'll be okay when you get started. Once you get the first 5 minutes, we're not too bad. You kind of get to like us after a while. Let's just get straight into it, Martina, because I know there's a lot of people here that want to hear your story and that as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself, like who you are, where you're from, what your kind of life looks like work-wise, and family-wise, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I'm from Dublin, and I work at the Aviva Stadium. So I look after all match day and non-match day catering and hospitality. And I'm actually sitting here at the moment in the stadium. For those who are looking behind me, we have a big match on Saturday, so that's keeping me a little bit busy at the minute. I live and I've grown up in Dublin. I've been there my whole life. I have a husband and a little girl at home. She turns 3 next week, actually. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of my personal story, I guess, in a bit of a nutshell.
Okay, cool. So you're pretty busy, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm kept going.
A little bit. So I want to just start at the beginning, Martina, and I just want to get a little bit of an insight into what life was like for you before you joined the program, or effectively, like, why did you reach out and ask for help? What was the trigger, or like, how were you feeling? What was going on for you at that stage?
So I had my little girl in 2020, literally just as lockdown was happening. And I returned to work in January 2021, and COVID was still going on. And, I was able to, we had matches going on behind closed doors. So I still had to come to work, but we were on a very restricted workforce. Things were just crap. I mean, things are crap in general for everyone, weren't they? So I kind of very much had to get in on top of me, and I turned to food for comfort eating, really. And I just gained so much weight, and I was in a very bad place. And I remember that first half of the year when I returned to work, I found it really difficult because I just got into this really bad habit and rut of taking the same route to work every day. And they had these, which are still very popular now, the drive-through coffee, crates, coffee containers. And I ended up going in there every morning, getting my coffee, an almond croissant, and then you were going to the local retail shop to get your food. And I mean, I've worked in food my entire life. So I know food, I know about it, I know how it works. And yeah, I was not doing the right things that I should have been doing, or eating the right food that I should have eaten. I wasn't preparing anything, because most of my life was spent around working at work. And then when I got home, looking after my little girl, and things just came to a head. And I think, trying to remember, you came recommended on a Facebook group that I was in. Actually, it was a Mums in Ireland Facebook group. Somebody had put that they wanted to, somebody put up that they wanted, to lose weight, and could anyone recommend anyone? And I had tried lots of different variations of diets in the past. I had my weight had yo-yoed a lot over the years, and I'd also done some like kind of dodgy diets, for want of a better description, like keto and things like that. Yeah, you get a quick fix solution, and it does work for a short period of time, but then you just gain it all back on again. So it wasn't conducive, and I knew that's not the route that I wanted to go down. I wanted to make a lifestyle change. Okay. And you came recommended. And I remembered when I had that phone call with you, which was in June 2021, and I'd let it drag on. I think your recommendation came up around April. And it took me 2 months to pluck up the courage to reach out to you via Facebook. Wow. I think it was online. I actually reached out to your website originally. And we spoke. And I remember actually I was sitting down in the RFU suite looking out at the pitch, and I spoke to you that day. And I remembered I did everything and held everything together on that call because I was crumbling inside. I was a mess. My confidence was horrendous. I didn't even recognize myself in the mirror anymore. I was wearing clothes that I don't even know what they were. They were every form of baggy or stretchy pants that were going, certainly wasn't wearing anything that would have given me any confidence or would have liked about myself. And I became very conscious that I became a mum later in life. I was 42 when I had my little girl. I'm 45 now. And I guess I started to think, God, I want to be around for her. I want to be fit and healthy. I want to be around for as long as I possibly can. And that's really what triggered all the other things as well. But that is really what triggered the phone call ultimately to you at that point.
Amazing. I love the honesty in that. I really appreciate it, because I know something you've said there actually really resonated. It's that sometimes it's really, really hard to ask for help. And I think that's nearly the hardest part of the whole process sometimes for a lot of people. And I would see it especially a lot with people who are highly driven and achieve a lot in other areas. You nearly put this expectation on yourself that I should be able to do it myself. Like, if I have everything else sorted, why can I not do this? And then even like that, even sometimes the ego nearly plays a part. You're going, I don't want to ask for help. I know I should be able to do it. Like, in theory, it's quite easy. And then you're going, but it's not happening, you know? So like, that's the first thing. And then you're saying to me, like, there's a lot of stuff around, you know, not being comfortable with clothes that you're wearing and different things like that. What's the knock-on effect of that? Like, do you find yourself maybe avoiding having pictures taken or pulling back from social feeds or something like that?
Do you know, it's funny. I looked for a photo of me pre-calling you that wasn't just maybe my face, you know, that wasn't it where, you know, you've kind of stuck your neck out to make yourself look a little bit thinner. I was actually looking for a full length body photo of myself before the ones that I had to send you. And I couldn't find one. And the reason why I couldn't find one is because I clearly refused to get into pictures. All of my photos of me and my little girl are me and her like close up at each other, you know, from when she was up until her christening nearly, which was the end of that summer of 21. So yeah, I clearly had very much shied away from pictures where anything that beyond my face was shown was in them, and I wasn't comfortable with having them. And I do think that COVID had a big knock on to all that as well, you know, because you're kind of in your bubble and you think, because I think you're not around, I have a brutally honest sister and you're not around people all the time. She'd be the one who tells you, you know, oh, you've put weight on, you need to sort yourself out. But I hadn't seen her as often as I normally would be. So you're not getting that, you know, you're not in those social interactions. And I think that kind of had a bit of a knock on as well. But yeah, I just, no photos, kept away from people in general for reasons other than just COVID. And it's kind of sad a little bit when I look back on that, because I don't have pictures of Keely with just the two of us, maybe me holding her and from a far distance back. I don't have any like that, you know.
Okay, it just shows the impact of it, because I think people take this stuff for granted. They go, oh, I want to lose a few pounds, but like a lot of time people are just putting on a front and they're going, it's not that important, just need to lose a few pounds. But like it actually is, when you actually look at things like that, where you're going, I don't have pictures from back when she was younger and whatever, like, and it's sad, like, but I love that you have taken ownership and come out the other side and like absolutely thriving now. I think it's absolutely incredible. But I guess like it's just, it really highlights to me the nearly kind of inner battle that's going on within yourself at times like that, because I'm sure you're going like, I would love to be in pictures with her, I'd love to have that time, I'd love to be able to do all that, but then there's another part of you going, I don't want to see pictures of myself like that. Like, it's that kind of inner conflict, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely it is. And you know, when it's, you know, when I suppose, look, for anyone who's a parent, you know, you want those memories, you want those pictures, you know. So there is, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got them, but I just don't, there's a lot more of my husband with her holding him in her arms. And normally because the woman is the one taking all the pictures or doing all the organizing. But yeah, there's a lot more with him than there would be with me. Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned confidence as well. Do you mind if we dig a little bit deeper on that? Like, how was that at the time? Or like, how were you feeling? If you can just take a moment to put yourself back in your shoes of when we had that call, how were you feeling at that moment?
Do you know, I'll be honest, there was times where I was embarrassed standing in front of people. When I mean standing in front of people, so my role, I'm in contact with a lot of people, very large numbers of people, a lot. Now, obviously, during at that time, particularly around about June of 21, now we were opening back up again. People were allowed to start, you know, attending fixtures again in limited numbers, but they were. But I had to attend a lot of client meetings, and I was embarrassed in those client meetings because I had to, you know, present myself as a brand and on behalf of my company to stakeholders in the RFU and the FEI and the stadium. And you just kind of don't feel like you're looking your professional self. And if you don't feel like you're looking your professional self, you don't feel like you're delivering your professional self. And I knew that was something that, I mean, you know, apart from all the personal things, my work was affected then by that. And that had to stop because I've spent a long time building my reputation, my career, and I had to address that as well. So that was the real confidence kicker for me, I think, because if there's one thing that I've always been secure in my life is around my career. And when I was feeling embarrassed going into meetings because of how I looked,
Yeah,
that wasn't good.
And I think that's something to take the focus off where you want it as well, because you want to be fully focused on your presentation or on your meeting. You don't want to be thinking about what am I looking like, or having anxiety around what am I going to wear for the 2 days beforehand, or pulling out clothes or whatever. You just want to be able to put your focus on where it needs to be. And another thing I'd love to get your insight on as well is one thing I see quite a lot, especially with parents, because, you know, it's like all the time has to be given to the kids, all of the energy, all the focus. But what can happen is we can nearly just put ourselves down that list of priorities as well. And then you end up, you know, kind of out of shape, low in confidence, energy levels maybe not so good. And you can actually nearly end up in a body that you don't even recognize anymore. And it's like, I'm not that comfortable in it. And I sometimes think there's nearly a sense of loss of identity as much as anything else, that you're kind of looking back and you're going, I want a little bit of the old Martina back as well.
Yeah, definitely can relate to that. I mean, I think I said that at the start. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. It's funny. Somebody did recently say to me in work, and thankfully I've worked with this person a long time and I trust them, so I don't mind that they did say to me. But they did see a picture of me, probably just before. Well, no, wouldn't have been just before I got pregnant. Maybe a while before I'd gotten pregnant as well, because I was still carrying. I carried weight then. I lost some weight before I got pregnant, but then I was carrying a bit of weight prior to that. And the phrase they used was, Martina, you look like you've eaten yourself. You were that big, you know. And like, it was done in a jokey kind of not mean way, but it just brought realization to how I looked before I went on this journey, you know, and the difference that it's made in me as well, you know, since then.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because we have looked at the side of it before you signed up and how you were feeling and what was going on for you. As we sit here today, how are you feeling now? How has life changed? What's different?
You know, I've said it to you before, and I know there's a lot of new people in the group, and I mean it. I mean, I can't thank you enough for the change that you've made in my life, or helped me make in the change in my life. I'm so much more happier in the skin that I'm in. I'm so much more confident. My relationships are much better because of how good I feel about myself. So my relationships with my husband, my relationship with my family, like I was finding myself being very snippy and short at people as well. Now, don't get me wrong, I was also a new mum with not great sleep at night time because of a young child, but I knew that that wasn't what it was all down to. Because your mindset changes as well. Your mindset changes when you start to feel good about yourself again, and you start to realize, actually, you know, this is the old Martina. This is who Martina used to be. You know, everything about the journey that I've been on has meant that I'm delivering much more successfully now in every aspect of my life, professionally, personally. You know, it's touched every part of me. And, you know, even though I went through quite a tough time last year, everything that I learned from you during the last year and a half, nearly 2 years in June, that I've been working with you, enabled me to make sure that I didn't go on a car crash with that, you know, that I didn't go off the rails, and that I didn't forget the journey that I was on. And I think everything that I have been through has enabled me to make sure that I can do that. And I can, it's become a lifestyle change. That's really, for me, it's massively a lifestyle change. I have a lot more energy. Silly little things. This is a big building. Anyone who's been to the Viva Stadium knows it's big. Easiest way to get around on the match day is up and down flights of staircases. Oh my God, the difference. And you think about, they're not things you think about at the time when you're on this journey. But now when I'm running up and down those flights of stairs, it means nothing to me. There's no real loss of breath, and there's no, you know, it's just easily done. It's the energy levels are so different, and the amount of energy and time physically now that I can have with my little girl. We go swimming every weekend. On a Sunday she has swimming lessons, and I go into the pool with her. And you know, and that would have been something that I would have been very embarrassed about previously, because of how I looked. Not anymore. And you know, we go to soft play centers, and I'm the one up in the slide with her coming down to the soft play center, because I have the energy that I didn't used to have. I'm much more organized than I used to be. Always kind of was organized in my work life, but I'm probably more organized in my personal life now, which was something that I was really poor at, if I'm being honest. And I definitely think that comes down to planning, preparing, and that's just then filters out into the rest of my life. And my mental health is a lot better. That's probably the massive one. Yeah.
Okay. And in what way?
There's just a lot more positivity about how I think about things and how I look at things. You know, I think in the past, certainly around the time that I was speaking to you in the early stages of the journey and before that journey, everything would have been quite negative. Everything, I always would have saw the bad in things, or looked at the wrong, you know, looked into things in a way that they weren't meant, but I always would see the negativity in them. Whereas now I don't, and I don't let things that potentially can be negative affect my mental health in the same way that they used to. Don't get me wrong, God, I have stressful times, I have stressful moments, of course I do. But I've learned to channel that stress better now. And some of that is down to the fact that I sleep better. Not always, with a toddler, anyone who's kids will know that your sleep is not always perfect, but I get more quality sleep because I'm stressing less about certain things. You know, I've learned to compartmentalize things better. So I've become much better at kind of shutting work down and going home, and home becomes home time, not work time. Because I work quite long hours anyway. So it's important that I switch off. But everything that I've learned in the last year and a half has enabled me to be able to do this. It's not something that I would have done beforehand.
Incredible. I think there's a lot in that, and it's exactly everything you're saying, like time management for sure. But I also think, like, when you start getting in shape, you have to be disciplined to do that, and you have to be disciplined with your time, and you have to have boundaries in place, and like all of these things then filter over into other aspects of your life, because you learn. Like, I always think training, getting in shape, and life, there's a huge amount of parallels. Like, it's the same rules, and when you start doing them in one area and you're seeing success in it, then you start to go, oh, this is actually the same over here as well, and you go, I just need to enforce a little bit of that as well. And look, everything you're saying is making complete sense. And I think I actually said to you recently, one of the things I was really proud of you for was last year, because you had a really tough year, and to me, to come through it, and like, you never went backwards. Like, there was never a case where I was going, Martina, you've put on a stone and a half. What the fuck's going on here? Like, that didn't happen, you know? Like, it was, like, you didn't go backwards at all. And okay, there was times where you weren't moving forward, but we're going, okay, we're absolutely okay where we are. Like, the priorities need to be somewhere else right now. And then we start moving forward again. So I think that was absolutely massive. So just to kind of clarify that one for you as well, I thought that was incredible. And that was, to me, nearly as big a win as anything that you've achieved so far, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. And so, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, my dad passed away in January last year. And he, I mean, look, he'd had cancer for a few years, but by the time when he did pass away, it was quite sudden towards the end. And it was incredibly challenging. I mean, anyone who's lost anyone who's close to them knows how difficult that can be. But while, as Alan said, I didn't necessarily progress. When I mean progress, there was a lot of times during last year where my weight didn't move much, but also move much backwards. It never went forwards either. I didn't gain weight. A lot of it became maintenance. And the only reason why that happened is because I continued to implement a lot of the tools that Alan had taught me, you know, things like journaling, things like ensuring that you are putting that time in for your training. And you're running. So running is kind of the piece of training that I enjoy the most. You know, and what became a big goal for me then as a result of that was a women's mini marathon, which I completed and raised a lot of money for charity, for the Irish Cancer Society out of it. So yeah. So I mean, I think, you know, I spoke with Alan in January, and I hadn't really looked at maintaining as being an accomplishment, but I think because of how challenging the year was that I had last year, when I realized, and you know, he's kind of touched off there, it is quite an accomplishment. So I'm quite proud, because in the past I would have just went, fuck it, I'm gone back on the food, I'm gone back on all the bad habits that I would have had previously, you know.
Okay, so my next question to you was your 3 biggest wins. So I'm guessing that's probably a couple of them there anyway, is it?
Yeah, so look, I'm fairly certain everyone says the same thing. My first biggest win was my first 5K. Like, that was huge for me. When I spoke to Alan on the phone in June, it was like the 3rd week of June, it was a lovely summer's day. And Alan started talking about doing a program for me. And he said, okay, so we'll do a bit of weights. And I was like, great, I like weights, that resistance, I love that. And he said, then we're going to run. I went, no, can we just do the weights? And he was like, no, you're going to run. I'd never run in my life. And I remembered that first week where I had I think it was a minute on and 3 minutes walk. So a minute running and 3 minutes walking. And I did that 3 times in the one go. And I remembered I thought I was going to die at the end of that 60 seconds. And I literally had, instead of doing like your step count, had my stopwatch on to see when I was going to hit that 60 seconds. 6 weeks later, I ran 5K. So that was, yeah, I mean, first K it's one of those moments. I think anyone who takes money from running, it's a big, super proud achievement for them. So yeah, that was
what's that feeling like? What's that feeling like?
It was amazing. And I ran it in the park. There's a small park literally across from my house. And it was summertime. It was the end of July. And it was a really sunny day. And I remember taking the photo of my selfie afterwards and the sun was shining. I mean, I literally was jumping around the park. I think people thought I was a bit mad when I finished the 5K and I hit that 5K. So yeah, it is a super feeling when you hit that first 5K, because I don't think you ever think you're actually going to do it. As in, when you had laid out the plan for me, I was like, I am never going to I couldn't run for 60 seconds. How am I going to run 5K? Never in a million years thought I was going to do that. And so to do that, yeah, it was brilliant. I was delighted with that achievement. The women's mini marathon was huge.
Let's just finish on that
one
for a second, because I know there's also going to be people listening to this back, and they're probably going to be in the position that you are starting off, and they're going, how did she do that? You know, how did she even get to 5K? And they're going to go, no more than you were saying there, they're going to go, I could never do that. I could never do it. So I just want to stress, like, most important thing is breaking it down. Like, we don't just throw you in and like, go do a 5K, Martina. Like, it's one step at a time. I think that's the most important thing. So I was going to ask you for three of your biggest wins or things that you're most proud of. So number one, I've got the first 5K. What else have we got?
The women's mini marathon. That was huge for me. And it was very personal, as I said. So I get, apart from never running 5K, I'd never run 10K. So, you know, I was kind of going, oh God, how will I ever hit that level? And bearing in mind, so towards the end of the first year that I was with Alan, so towards the end of 2021, was when my dad was getting sicker and sicker. So my time for training wasn't always available. And then when he passed away in January, I to be fair to Alan, he was great. He gave me all the space I needed. And I stepped back until about the end of February. And then Alan built a new program for me from March. I effectively nearly had to start running again. Like, I think if I'm right, Alan, you started me about 3K when I
went
started.
Back a nice bit, yeah.
Yeah, and built me up to 10K, and it was great. Unfortunately, the week before the mini marathon, I got a chest infection, and I had a GP telling me, you can't run that race. And I said, there is no way I'm not running that race. If I have to walk it, I'll walk it, but I'm going to run it. And I did run it. I'll be full honesty, there was 1 kilometer, that kilometer where you go up by the flyover, that I did have to stop because it was lashing rain that day, and it was horrible, miserable, damp day. It was in June, like typical. But when I crossed that finish line, wow, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. It was such a buzz. And I've gone and signed myself back up to it again this year. So.
Yes. Oh, yes. You're never back now.
I know. I can't back out now. I know. And then I kind of have, you said 3. Look, the weight loss kind of,
Can I just stop you for 1 second again, Martina, because I want to just delve into one other point on that as well on the mini marathon that I think is really, really important. It really highlights to me, and I speak a lot about the importance of knowing your why. And like when you say to me there, like I had gone back to 3K, like to get to 10K, I'm going to put it out there. I feel it was because the why was really, really, really important to you. Like if it wasn't, I don't think that would have happened. Like if it was like, I kind of want to do it, but you know, so would you agree with that? Like, I think it's that emotional thing that was there where you go, I have to do it for my dad. And I know you then signed up to raise funds for the Irish Cancer Society as well. Wasn't it the Irish Cancer Society? It was?
Yeah, it was. And it was just over 3,000 that I raised. Yeah. So it was huge.
Wow. Yeah. Like, I think when you've got something like that behind you, that actually means a lot to you and you're very connected to your why you're doing it. It just changes the game. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a very powerful why for me. I mean, I'd even go as far as say it was a more powerful why for me doing that than maybe even starting the weight loss journey that I'd started on. Just because I think probably, you know, I had told my dad at Christmas time, which was about 2 weeks before he passed away, that I was going to do the women's mini marathon. So I'm glad I got to tell him that, you know. So he, you know, I mean, he was there at me as I crossed the line, as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, it was such a big deal. Yeah.
You're a star. You're an absolute star. Give me your third biggest win.
The weight loss one, I'm not going to put down. It is a win, but it's kind of like a side effect of all the other wins, if that makes sense. But changing mindset, that is a massive win, I think, because, and I touched on it, you know, a few minutes ago, but it's all about, just how you change how you do things and look at things and approach things, and not let things get in on top of you, and different ways that you can channel your emotions, your stress, or just day-to-day life, to have that mindset just to be different, you know, and being able to be confident about yourself because of that, so that for me was huge. It was the change in mindset as well.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely incredible. And it's a whole knock-on effect. Like once you start thinking differently, you have a different perspective on things. And that's also, to me, the biggest game changer in creating long-term change for people as well. Because I think like everybody comes in and they think it's just about food or training. I'm going, it's not. Like the stuff that changes lives is the mindset side of things. So I love that you're saying that. One other thing I just want to ask you, because I know an awful lot of people watching this back or listening back to it are all thinking the same thing in their head. How much weight did she lose? And I know we're not completely focused on the scales. And for me, it's a byproduct, as you mentioned, but we probably better tell them.
It's almost 3 stone. Yeah.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Life-changing stuff. Okay.
Okay.
So at this juncture, I'm going to take a little bit of a pause because you probably need a breath. You might need a little glass of water. Guys, will you pop in the chat for me? What's been your biggest takeaway so far? What has stood out for you? Are you enjoying the call so far? Any key lessons, any key takeaways, any key insights? Drop it in the chat, please and thanks. And then we're going to come back with just a few little tips and lessons that Martina is going to share with you guys as well, which will be absolutely powerful. So pop in the chat for me. Her honesty. Yep. Honest as the day is long. That's one thing in Elevate. We have a no dickheads rule. We only take in great people. And yeah, like we're very upfront. And that's the one thing that you will see even within our Facebook community and everything, like really, really honest. Everybody just kind of puts it out there as it is. And I suppose that probably comes from me at times as well. Like the guys will tell you I don't sugarcoat things sometimes, but sometimes that's what's needed, isn't it? Inspirational and honest. Yeah, I love it. What else have we got, guys? Pop in the chat for me. Great wins, Martina. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Anybody else picking anything up? I think one of the biggest things that's coming forward for me is just like the longevity, where it's bouncing back all the time. And even when challenges are thrown at you, she's still showing up every single day. Like Martina's been with us for almost 2 years now. And that to me, like I always speak about long-term, and that's what it is. It's every single day showing up, being consistent. And like, if you look at Martina's journey, there's been no massive jumps. It's been steady all the way. And that's why she's got ultimately to where she wanted to be. Yeah, not all about weight loss, 100%. Okay, some great shares coming in there. Are you good to crack on, Martina?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So my next question for you then is just if you could maybe share with the guys your kind of 3 biggest tips or lessons around mindset, because I know you mentioned that as one of the things that was really, really important for you. Anything you'd share with the guys there?
Journaling is very powerful. So I was not a journaler. I'm not a diary writer. I've never been somebody who kind of wrote things down. And I remembered even in the early days, you had talked about it a good bit, Alan, and I was like, I was quite reluctant. I don't know if I was maybe afraid of the honesty of it. I'm not really sure why, but it took me a little while to get to journaling. And actually, it was just after the live event in Sligo that I started journaling. And I've continued to keep it quite simple. This is just for me, so I can only talk about what I've done. But I write down at the end of every night 3 things that I am grateful for that have happened that day. I keep it very specific, so not like, well, I'm grateful for my health. I mean, today I'm going to write that I'm grateful that I got an opportunity to tell my story tonight to other people in the group. I had a lovely coffee this afternoon with a colleague of mine. And I managed to close out a big work loop. So they're my 3 specifics for today. Some of them can be, bigger than that. Some of them can be very small, but I think journaling has really helped me, particularly during the really tough times after my dad had passed away in the last year. And it's helped me. I went off track a little bit with journaling around kind of November last year, because it's such a busy time for me. And actually, since we regrouped in January and reset, my journey again, I have gone back to journaling, and I can see the difference that it makes. So yeah, journaling is very powerful, and I'd highly recommend it. And it doesn't have to be writing your entire story down.
Yep.
Even something as simple as the 3 little specific things in a day that you're grateful for is good.
100%. And that's the thing that switches mindset, because I do feel like an awful lot of time people come in and they go, oh, I need a better mindset. I need to be in a better mindset. And they think they should be able to think their way out of it, or like they should just be able to go, okay, I'm going to decide to have a better mindset. And I'm going, but you have to work at it. Like it's like you said, there's journaling, it's writing these things down every day, because you're bringing awareness now to what's good in your life. You're bringing awareness to the things that you're grateful for and that have made something good happen in your day. And then you start to see those things an awful lot more. Whereas if you don't bring awareness, you're probably only looking at what did I not do today? And then you're ultimately going, oh, Jesus, So I think that's absolutely incredible. And I love that you have taken on the bit of journaling, because I know myself how powerful it is. And one other thing I'd say as well, guys, is one thing I use it for is just a bit of a brain dump sometimes. If I'm feeling really, really overwhelmed and I'm like, there's so much going on at work and there's so much going on in my personal life and I don't know what's happening, I'm not going to be able to sleep at night, I literally get the pen and paper out and I will just start writing whatever's in my head. And like, sometimes you could come out with 2 pages of absolute shit, to be honest, but it doesn't matter because it's out of your head and that's where it needs to be. So, yeah, I love that. Number 1 on the mindset tips is journaling. Number 2?
Know your own journey. And I think that is so important. When I joined Elevate first, you know, I remembered going on to the Facebook group and being so intimidated by seeing some people's posts on a daily basis. And I'm going, how are people doing 20,000 steps on a daily basis? I cannot do that many steps. And then feeling very disheartened and frustrated. And I remember listening to, I'm trying to think, was it one of your podcasts or was it one of your, you know, your videos, the intro videos that you have on your Facebook, the Elevate page. And there was a sentence that you said that stood out, and it's become a bit of a mantra for me. I now use it in work and everything with my team. Comparison is the thief of joy. Yeah. And do not compare your journey to anyone else's. Everyone is on a different journey. They're at different stages of their journey. Their lifestyles are different. They'll have different reasons why they're on the journey. Know and own your own journey and follow it, and don't compare yourself to other people. And when you find yourself slightly doing that, remember that it's going to take away from the great thing that you're doing yourself and what you're achieving. So that sentence was always quite powerful for me. Comparison is a thief of joy. And I think that was one of the best pieces of advice I think that you've ever given throughout the whole process.
I think you've just given the guys one of the best pieces of advice they're ever going to hear. I think that's absolutely incredible. That is so powerful, Martina. And just like, please come back to it, guys. We're all here to support each other, encourage each other, but no 2 people are the same. We've all got different circumstances. We've all got different lives. If you're comparing somebody else that's on their journey, you're comparing apples and oranges. They're not the same. Okay. So exactly what Martina has said, your own journey, and that's it. And yes, get as much support around you. Everybody's loving that in the chat. Yeah, absolutely love it. I think that was really, really powerful. So number 3 on mindset, Martina.
Goal setting, so important.
Yeah.
And they've got to mean something. You know, you can't just write down, and I know you've said it before, but you can't just write down, I want to lose weight, but that's not really a goal. What is the goal? And you have to have a date by which you want to do it. And I think don't make the goal too far in advance that they'll say, oh, that's just ages away. So you're never going to go to achieve it. So you've got to make them measurable. You've got to make it something that you know that is meaningful to you and that you want to achieve. And I would recommend, for me, certainly it helped. I used to put my goals, I still do, up on my fridge door. So I would see them all the time. Whenever I would go to the fridge. So I knew what they were, and revisit them constantly because they're going to change, you know. And I think, I mean, I now revisit my goals probably every 3 months because they do change. Yep. And write them down, so important, and revisit them and make sure that you set measurable targets for yourself that you can commit to.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And even like, you've been killing it over the last probably 7 or 8 weeks. And like, we did a call back, when was it, January, and we set a very, very clear goal. And since then, and we're like on the same page, and we're going, well, that's the target, and it's going to be done by the 31st of March because your busy season is coming in then afterwards. So like, we've got a specific number, we've got a specific date that we're working towards. And ever since that call, like, I just feel like your levels have gone boom, like they've been way up there. Would you agree?
Yeah, probably not the last couple of weeks with how sick I've been, but yeah, no, they have. But it's funny, like you feel. And that's the lovely thing about the community that I think we have in Elevate. You feel a sense of loyalty and responsibility to the people who are also in Elevate with you. You know, I mean, if I've set those goals and I'm in the group, I want to be delivering, I want to be posting, I want to be talking about, I want to be supporting everyone in it as well. And I think when you do that, that gives ownership to you and the goals that you set for yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the live events kind of play into that as well, don't they? When you get to actually meet people and you get to know them face to face.
Love the live events.
And the class.
Can't wait. I'm staying the night before, by the way. I've booked my room now and everything.
Oh, it's going to be unreal. It's going to be absolutely unreal. I can't wait. I've been chatting to Jerry even over the last couple of days as well. I know he's both for it. Dave is the same. Dave can't wait to get her. So it's going to be an incredible day. I know it is. Yeah, everybody's saying the same in the chat. It's the team, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. It's a team effort, and that's the most important thing. I always feel like what's lacking for an awful lot of people is actually support and accountability. They think it's knowledge around food or whatever, but a lot of time it's actually not. But yeah, I love that you're bringing awareness to that. So 3 biggest lessons around mindset or tips that Martina has just shared. Number 1 was journaling. Number 2 was know your own journey. And number 3 was goal setting. I absolutely love the know your own journey one. I thought that was absolutely phenomenal. Martina, can you maybe have a little look for us around food? So maybe 3 tips or biggest lessons that you would take from the food side, because I know you've worked in food for all your life anyways. So there's a lot of knowledge there anyway, but what would you share with us in relation to kind of your weight loss journey around food?
So, I mean, look, planning and prepping your food is very important. And I know you talk about that a lot, as does Sinead when she's posted in the group. And I think anyone who's been in previous hot seats has talked about that as well. That is important. The big one for me was doing a shopping list. Okay. I was one of those people who went to the supermarket and walked around with a trolley and went, oh, what do I need today? And started putting stuff in. And then you get to the checkout and you realize, oh, okay, the stuff I probably shouldn't have in my trolley, but sure, I'm here now, I'll just get it. You know, and then
you need those wagon wheels. The wagon wheels could have been left out, like.
So the shopping list has just been, and I mean, I know it's such a cliche because when I was a kid, my mum used to write out a shopping list. I went shopping with her all the time, you know. So it is a cliche, but write a shopping list. And what I've started to do, even quite recently in the last 7 to 8 weeks, is I'm really looking at recipes and dinners that I'm cooking well in advance. So when I look at what I want to cook in the week, I do a shopping list. So I make sure it's a shopping list specific to those meals, and that's what I'm buying. So, you know, the shopping list is so important. I just can't stress that enough. It just stops you from putting stuff in the trolley that doesn't need to be in there. Yep. So I think that's quite important.
100%. And I think you're probably going to find as well, you save yourself quite a few quid too. Like people say, oh, healthy eating is expensive. I go, well, it's expensive if you keep buying all the junk food along with it, you know? Exactly.
Another big tip around food is experimenting with your meals. You know, I think sometimes we have a tendency, and I'm not for a second saying don't eat the same meals. If you've got a set plan and you eat the same meals every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's fine. But maybe experiment with the different sauces that you can put with it, the different flavors that you can put with it. I've recently started looking at a lot of plant-based options. So I've kind of removed a lot of meat protein, and I've added in plant-based protein into my meals. Now, a lot of that is not just down to obviously the change in my journey that I've been on for the last 7 weeks, but also from a sustainability point of view, I've been looking at it. You know, I mean, we are in a different world. I've got a little girl. I want it to still be here when she gets a bit older. And if we keep eating red meat, it won't be, you know, so anything that we can do. So I think experiment with your meals, experiment with your food, and not be afraid to mess about with recipes and things like that. Just obviously avoid anything that has cream and butter in it as much as possible. Stick to your tomato-based options. And that'll be quite good. But I think when you experiment with your food a little bit, it keeps food interesting rather than it being the same meal all the time. Because when you have that all the time, you just feel, right, I'm just going to have something else instead. And that's something else going to be a pizza from Domino's, which you don't have.
Yeah. 100%. No, 100%. And like, I always think as well, like that actually just keeps the fun aspect to it as well, you know, and you're probably even learning as well, because you're probably trying different recipes and you're going, I don't actually mind having a go at that. It keeps it fresh in your brain. What's your third biggest tip for us around food?
Give yourself the treat. Now, I'm not saying every day of the week, give yourself the treat. But you know, I think the 80-20 rule is really important. And I think that if you fully deprive yourself or make yourself feel bad or guilty about having something that perhaps, okay, it's not on your meal plan, but by and large, you've stuck to your meal plan, I think that's where you're going to have an unhealthy relationship with food. And that's where you will just do the fuck it and then eat whatever you want. So I think don't be guilty that you've had the treat. Obviously, don't go bonkers, but have the treat. You know, have the treat. And then if you do go bonkers, draw a line in the sand, forget about it, and move on to the next day and start fresh. Yeah, and I think that's really important.
It's such a great shout, that, because again, I've been saying it a lot recently, but the people who do really, really well long term, to me, it's not that they don't eat junk food. It's that they have an ability to rein it back in quickly. It's not like that Friday has turned into a whole weekend and then suddenly it's Monday and it's another week and then they're way off track. It's more where you go, okay, do you know what? That wasn't really part of the plan. I hadn't even intended to do that, but it's done. I enjoyed it. Draw a line, move on. You know, it's the reaction to it. It's not actually the thing itself that's going to do the damage. It's the reaction to it. So I absolutely love that. I think it's an incredible share. So just on your food, just to recap. So we have number 1 was planning and prep and doing a shopping list. Number 2 was experimenting with food. And number 3 was give yourself the treat. Love it. Love it. Love it. Let's move on to training. 3 biggest tips or lessons from your training.
Do something that you love. That's probably one of the biggest ones. I mean, if you'd asked me a couple of years ago would I have enjoyed running, I'd have said not in a million years. But there's something quite liberating about sticking your headphones in and just going out and running. And I'm a bit of a strange one. I don't like treadmill running. I've decided, I've tried it a few times. I'm really not good at it.
Great.
In fact, my running times are worse on a treadmill than
Wow.
they're worse than a treadmill. I don't know what it is with me. I much prefer, I love the feeling of being outdoors, the
Same.
wind, the sun, even the rain. I've run in the rain as well. But because I love doing it, that's why I still do it. Don't get me wrong, there are days where I absolutely don't want to put those runners on and go out the door. But they're the days where you make yourself do it because there's a reason why you're doing it. But by and large, I do. I thoroughly enjoy running, and I have found it a strange bedfellow, so to speak, because I wouldn't have never thought that I would have enjoyed it. I would have thought I would have much more preferred doing weights and high resistance training because that's what I had done previously in the past. So I think it's important that you find something that you love and do it, because if you don't love it, you're just not going to do it and you won't keep up with it and you won't stick with it.
Great shout. And I think you have to be open to trying different things as well, and it's a perfect example because you from that first phone call is going, I'm not running.
Yeah,
look at you now, Martina.
I know, and I've recently taken up rowing as well. So we're doing rowing here in the stadium, which is great. And I'm suddenly realized that I've loved rowing as well. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. So yeah, I think find something that you love doing.
Yeah, like you just have to be open to trying different things. And I always think because you'll get a lot of people that say, oh, I'm not sporty or whatever. And I'll go, well, what have you tried? And it'll be like literally like 2 things, and it'll be very mainstream things that maybe everybody else was doing or their friends were doing. I always think if you try 10 things, you will find one. Like you just have to put yourself out there and just like be willing to get out of the comfort zone and show up and try things. So incredible shout. Yeah, find something you enjoy. Second tip around training.
Block the time out in your diary to do it. I mean, that was probably the hardest piece for me. And I'm sure it's probably the hardest for everyone. We all have busy lifestyles. We all have, busy work, busy home life. And I found when I got home in the evening, because I've got a little girl, and her bedtime in the earlier days was about 7:30. It's now between 8 and 9 o'clock. So she's going down that time where I can't get onto open office unless I'm working, like tonight. You then make the decision, well, do I want to go out and run at 9 o'clock at night? And that's fine during the summer when it's nice and bright. I'm not overly comfortable running out that hour of the night when it's dark. So I made a conscious decision to start blocking out time in my work diary to go for a run. And I might have only gotten to do it 2 to 3 times a week, or even if I got it twice a week during my work week, I knew I'd get another run in at the weekend, which was fine because I'd have the time at the weekend to do it. But I would block it out on a Sunday. I would literally just look at my diary and say, right, where are my 2 gaps in the week that I can block it out? And I treated it like a meeting. I wasn't available. People couldn't change it. Nothing could happen. I got that time for me. And I think that if you don't block it out, you kind of go day by day, hoping that you might get the time, you'll find that you either won't get the time or you'll find a way to make sure that you didn't get the time.
Yeah.
So I think that's the important thing. Yeah.
I think it's a great shout to say I'm treating it like a meeting, and I do the exact same thing. I always say my training hour is not for sale. I don't care who's trying to get hold of me. I don't care if it's a client that wants a call. I don't care if it's somebody that's looking to join the program that wants a call. I'll give them alternative times. I go, my hour, that's it. Nobody's getting it. And I think that is sometimes the attitude that you have to take to it if you want to actually commit to having a routine in place, because otherwise it's going to end up sporadic. It's going to be like train once every 4 weeks, and it just isn't going to work. Yeah. Did you find that difficult to do at the start, getting into that headspace of going, I'm taking this hour for myself?
Yeah, I did. I found it really difficult actually, because I have a team of 20 odd people that report into me, and then I've got stakeholders and clients, and I was always at everyone's beck and call. So to suddenly tell people that no, I'm just not available at that time, my diary is blocked. And what was more interesting was my team knew the reason why my time was blocked out was because I was getting into my running gear and I was going for a run. And they started to respect those boundaries, and they stopped looking to try and get that bit of my time. So it was hard at the beginning. It was much of education for me as it was for the team as well. But I mean, I know you've gotten to meet a lot of my team because you did that team building day with them as well. And they very much applaud what I do now. And actually, a lot of them do it themselves too. And I facilitate that for them. I've one of my colleagues who does a Pilates class twice a week. And again, I facilitate that for her. So what I do for myself, I've allowed the rest of my team to do as well. So it's had that knock-on effect in work, and it's just got a better vibe because of it.
Massive, yeah. And I know you even mentioned when we had our chat in January that some of your colleagues got on board with you over the next couple of months as well, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we're doing our weigh-ins every second Tuesday, so here in the States, so yeah, that's fun.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And there's a huge lesson there, guys, just for any of you listening and listening keenly. There's a huge lesson around boundaries. And it's something I see a lot of you guys struggling with. So like, listen to what Martina is saying. You have to put those boundaries in place. You have to protect yourself. And I often think, like, I see a lot of people where they're struggling with boundaries and they're give. But the only person that's actually suffering in the middle of it all is yourself. So you have to put those boundaries in place and go, well, this is actually a priority. And even with your fitness goals or your health goals or weight loss goals, whatever it might be, it might not be the top priority, but it does need to be in the top 2 or 3. Like if it's way down in 7th place, it just doesn't happen. It has to be something you go, this is actually important to me. And it is something that, as Martina said, that you go, that's my hour. I'm putting it in there and it's non-negotiable. Okay.
Yeah.
Incredible. So just to recap, did I get 3 off you there around training?
I've one more.
2. I've one more. Yeah, give me one more. Yeah, give me one more.
Believe in yourself and trust the process. And I guess where that comes from is they need to trust you, Alan, and they should, because when you told me you were going to get me to run, I went, no, I won't be able to do that. But they need to believe that they can do it. If you believe that they can do it, they've got to believe that you're going to set them up on a journey to get to that ability to conduct that exercise. You're not going to suddenly send people out to lift weights or to run and they're going to injure themselves. You know what you're doing. So I think that's probably, for me, really important, that they've got to trust that what you're setting for them is the right thing. And some of them might want to go at a pace that's much faster, but there's a reason why perhaps it's not that fast, and they've got to trust why you've done it in those steps and stages. So I think that's really important.
Oh, I think that's a great shout. It really is, because I do see that quite a lot where like you're pacing people because it's appropriate to their level and you're going like, this is what you need right now. We'll still get your results. We'll develop it further as we go, but we're not throwing you in at the deep end. And what you will sometimes see is people try to rush the process because it just, again, they're in the mindset of, I just want everything done as quickly as possible. I'm going, well, either you're going to end up injured, you're going to burn yourself out, or you might temporarily lose a lot of weight, but it's going straight back on. So like we're ultimately looking to build you up for sustainability for life. And the biggest lesson I would take is the fact that Martina is sitting here 2 years later in the shape of her life and feeling amazing because she's took it at an appropriate pace rather than trying to just solve everything overnight. So yeah, incredible share. 3 key takeaways from training were: do something you love. The second one was block out time in your diary. And the third one was believe in yourself and trust the process, which is absolutely incredible. And you know what, guys, you mightn't even always believe in yourself initially at the start, but a phrase I come back to again is borrow my belief in you until you own it for yourself. That's the way I would probably phrase it to you, because I know you can do it. And you don't necessarily need to have everything figured out immediately. We will work on it together, and it will get to a point where your belief in yourself starts to grow. Like Martina says, you hit that first 5K and suddenly you're starting to go, maybe it is possible. So yeah, absolutely incredible share. Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. We've covered a lot of ground. Absolutely amazing. There's just a lot of gold in that. So I hope people have been taking notes. Any other advice or anything that you'd like to share with the guys, Martina, or is everything covered?
I think 2 main pieces. One for me is realize that this is a lifestyle change, because, I am sitting here nearly 2 years later and I haven't gone backwards, and anything that I've committed to previously in the past has always been a short-term win. And then the result was I would gain the weight back on, or I'd stop being interested in whatever it was that I'd taken up. This for me has become a lifestyle change, but it's a manageable lifestyle change. And I think that is so important to realize that we're not reinventing the wheel here, but it's about having all of those tools: the change in mindset, doing an exercise that you love, your relationship with food being better. That all comes together to go, actually, this is life now. This is how I live. And it's a great way to live. So I think that's one. And the second one is use the group. So important. I love the Facebook group. I probably haven't been as active in the last couple of weeks, but certainly I would have been the one that you see posting every other day previously. But the group is so important, and I think it's really important that everyone helps each other, supports each other. Not even that they should, but I know they do. I see it. I see when I post up something and all the comments that I get. I see when other people post up something and the comments that I get. Use the group. And I think when you use the group, it is invaluable, because it is a support network like no other, that you don't get in a gym and you don't get with like a one-to-one personal trainer. And that support network, because we're all, for want of a better description, normal people. We're not fitness instructors. We're all just trying to achieve a goal or go on this journey. And I think that the support and encouragement that we have for each other will enable us to achieve our goals greater or faster.
I think that's incredible. And again, like one of the biggest things that I would see sometimes from the general public is, I think they nearly have a bit of wariness in their head, or they're going, oh, online coaching, I don't know about that. Like, I need to see a personal trainer or whatever. But I think the biggest game changer for me, because I've obviously done both, I think the biggest game changer has just been having access to people every single day, because then it becomes like so ingrained. It's over and over, it's repetition, it's every single day, rather than like just meeting you twice a week and asking how your weekend was, because ultimately we have the deeper conversations. And I think that is, it's the stuff that people need to hear. Whether, even you've mentioned the change in mindset. I think that's because you're exposing yourself to an environment where you're hearing messages over and over and over, and then you start to think differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, incredible stuff. That was absolutely epic. Guys, we might open it up to a Q&A in a moment, but before that, will you just let me know your key takeaways? So since our last little break, so in the second half, what has stood out for you? Anything coming through for you? Have you enjoyed that? Let me know. I thought that was absolutely incredible. There's some real gold in that. So pop them in the chat for me. What's coming through for you? Give us a few key takeaways. I want to hear from everybody. I'll leave the chat open for about 30 seconds. Very enjoyable. Make time for me. Yeah, make time for yourself. Make yourself a priority. So important. If you want to achieve anything, you have to prioritize it. Where attention goes, energy flows. If it ain't a priority, it ain't going to happen. What else have we got, guys? Keep them coming. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Totally agree. You need to do something you love. Makes exercise so easy. Yeah, absolutely. Again, try things out. Don't be afraid. Don't feel like you have to do something just because it's what your friend does. Try things for yourself. Find what you enjoy. Anything else for us, folks? Keep them coming. I want to hear from everybody. Yeah, loved it. Mindset, know your own journey, power of journaling. I thought know your own journey was class. Absolutely love that phrase. We're going to open it up to the floor, guys. If you have any questions for Martina, if you want to pick her brain, now is your chance. We'll give it about 3 minutes. So if you have any questions, type them in for me, or if you want to pop on, we can bring you on mic if you prefer. So yeah, just now is your chance. Ask Martina, the woman that's been through it all. I'm sure she's more than happy to share anything else that you want to know. I think we've probably covered a lot, to be fair, but yeah, blocking out time in the diary. Well done, Martina. Awesome. Any questions for us, guys? Just going to leave the chat box open for about 30 seconds. If we have questions coming in, we will get through them.
Martina, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Martina, when you started blocking out time in your diary for yourself, did you find that people they were nearly insulted? That you were kind of...
Yeah, they did. I mean, it certainly in the early part, when I first started doing it, they did, yeah. And it became a bit of a it was a bit of an educational journey that I had to go on with my own team, but also with because I work at the stadium, but like I don't own the stadium. I've got key stakeholders here, and they need access to me quite frequently whenever they want to pick up the phone. And so it was even I created an educational piece for everyone around. These are the times, and what I started to do when I got into it a little bit more. On a Sunday, when I used to pick the 2 hours in the week where I was going to do the training, I would drop a note to the key people who would normally need most of my time to say, just as an FYI. And I didn't say I'm in a meeting or busy. I said, this is the times I'm going for a run. Because it became so important for me that they understood what I was doing was making me a better person to be able to do the job that I do. And the nice thing about what's kind of come out of all that is, and it's probably the current climate that we're living in now as well, we have a health and wellbeing committee here in work, and a lot of that kind of helps feed into that, and I champion quite a lot of that as well. So I think yes, I mean there's weeks in a year where I can work 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week due to the job that I do, particularly during certain times of the year, like November, where it's very, very busy. But even in November, when it was very, very busy, I blocked out 2 hours of those weeks
Good for you.
to do my runs. Yeah.
Well done.
I was selfish about it, if that's the right word to use. I was selfish about it. It had to become my time. And that's,
I suppose I'm coming from when we'd say, that you're always at others' beck and call. and you're always there for them, and you're kind of, no matter what, it's all about everybody else at times. Now they probably say, no, Mom, it's about you too, but it's, yeah, no,
Can I jump in on that for a second?
absolutely.
So just a few thoughts on that, Geraldine, and this is one that I see, it's very, very common with parents. The question I would ask you is, if you don't make time for yourself, where are you going to end up? In terms of, like, think back to what Martina said at the start of the call, how she was feeling at that particular time.
Absolutely. Probably quite frustrated and annoyed and hard done by at times.
And what effect does that have on the people around you?
Absolutely. Oh, there's no doubt about it, because you can be snappy and kind of, oh, for God's sake, just
Okay,
cranky.
yeah. So
Yeah.
let's then look at the flip side of that. So Martina is showing up today and she's feeling incredible. Her confidence is back. Her energy is good. She's thinking a lot better. She's already said even in work, there's a huge knock-on effect. What effect would that have for you, let's say, even on your family life, the people around you, if you had 50% more energy and you're feeling absolutely amazing and your confidence is back and you're feeling like your mood is a lot better? What would the knock-on effect be?
I suppose for me at the moment, I had one boy here all through COVID, doing college through COVID, and he was finding it quite difficult at times. And, our whole lives revolved around him. And he's gone off now to University of North Carolina for 6 months. So he's gone. And I'm realizing, I could be having a great time here. You're having a better life. It's just a bit different. But yeah, like that, I mean, I wouldn't have been as kind to myself I'd have most of my energy would have been worrying about my boys, for the last 2 years or 2.5 years. So now, and like Martina, I put on 1.5 stone weight, and I need to lose it now. I need to start and change my own mindset, so I can really resonate with what Martina says. And like that, Martina, I have an awful busy job as well. So, that's the way it goes, but yeah.
Incredible share, Geraldine. Really appreciate that. And I just want you to recognize that it's not selfish to look after yourself, because I think that's a misconception where parents, especially, I see it a lot with parents, they feel bad about actually putting time into themselves and looking after themselves. But ultimately, you have to recognize the impact that it's having on everybody around you as well. And once you're the best version of you, everybody is benefiting from that. It's not just you. So I think that's the biggest shift in terms of mindset, that you need to start thinking that way, that yes, I'm benefiting, but actually, Martina's already pointed out earlier, relationships with everybody improves. Even her work, she's performing at higher levels, cognitive function, mentally, she's probably thinking a lot better. The brain fog is gone. It's a huge, huge knock-on effect. So just to recognize that you're probably come from the perspective of, I want to lose weight and am I selfish taking all that time for myself? Look at the impact that it's having on a broader context.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks a million for jumping on. Really appreciate that. Anybody else got anything, guys, that you want to ask or you want to chip in with while we're here? I'll leave that chat box open for maybe another 30 seconds, because I'm sure Martina at this stage wants to get out of that stadium and get home. She's had a long day. I know she was on WhatsApp this morning early, so she has had a long day. Guys, anybody, anything you want to ask? I think we're good. Nothing coming through.
I think Sinead put something in there, Alan.
Oh, sorry.
In the group there.
Yeah. Do you think accountability within the group is another factor to your success?
Yeah, definitely. And I think I touched off that earlier on. You feel an ownership, or if that's the right word to use, or you feel you feel accountable to the people who are in the Elevate group as well. I mean, I want to show the best side of me and what I've done, and I love seeing people's posts when they've had an amazing week, and even the honest posts when they haven't. And I think it's so important that everyone kind of supports, both encourages the great posts, but also, supports the ones where people have had a bad week. And I think, I talked about journaling. That in itself maybe is a form of journaling. You're putting something up about how your day is gone and people have commented, or you've commented on other people's days. And it gives you an opportunity to reflect as to how you're doing and what your progress is. But it does, I definitely think it holds you more accountable when you're posting it on a daily basis. It holds you much more accountable. Yeah.
100%, because even something as simple as posting your steps up, if you're doing it all the time, you're making sure that I'm hitting those steps if I'm going to be putting them up there. And I think then it's after a while you're going, okay, I have to get these steps done, because if I don't post now, people are going to notice. Like, I have to get them in. So like, I always think the more support, the more accountability you have around you, the better you do. So absolutely great shout. Yeah, and again, like the live events are a huge part of that as well. Again, you're getting to know people and you feel even more accountable to them because it's that whole team feeling around it. So
Yeah.
that's absolutely epic. Anybody else got anything, guys? Are we good? I'll leave it open for about 20 seconds. And if I don't see anything coming in, we're going to shut it off. Can we get a little bit of love for Martina in the chat, please? Because I thought that was absolutely phenomenal. I loved that. I thought there was so much gold in that. I really did. So a little bit of love in the chat for her, please. And thanks, guys. And let's see.
Thanks a million, Martina. Sorry, I hate typing in chat.
It's easier to jump on mic. Cheers, Jody. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm used to talking.
Same here. It's the easiest way. Yeah, amazing, Martina. Loved hearing your story. Thanks so much, Martina. Brilliant. Yeah, I think the guys enjoyed that. The guys enjoyed that as much as I did. I'm going to put the recording back in the Facebook group tomorrow, and we will pop this out on the podcast as well. So if you're listening on the podcast, drop us a little message on social media. Let us know what you thought. Let us know your key takeaways, and if you enjoyed it. Well done, Martina. Incredible stuff. Loved hearing your journey. Yeah, so amazing person, absolutely. Like, guys, it's just inspiring for everybody when we share each other's stories. And this is why I want you just to use the Facebook group. Like, be vulnerable, be open, be honest, post stuff, because you can see it's inspirational. Like, Martina's been so open and honest today, and a lot of you are probably feeling inspired by it, and you're ready to go off and run through walls tomorrow. So absolutely incredible. Okay, Martina, from me, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that. That was absolutely awesome. You've been an absolute joy to work with over the last couple of years. And look, we're still going to smash this mini marathon in June.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much, Alan. Cheers. Good night.
Cheers. Thanks a million, Martina.